In this episode of the How to Get on Reality TV podcast, we're going to answer the question, should you shoot multiple live locations for the background of your audition video? Welcome to the How to Get on Reality TV podcast with Dan Giesling, where I answer your reality TV casting questions once a week. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend if you're in the States or if you're in Canada. Hope you guys had a great Canada Day celebration. Back this week with another awesome question from a listener when I sat down to record the podcast. I had a question from one of you guys, and then this one came in from Christine, like literally 5 minutes before I started recording the episode. I'm like, this is a really good question. We should answer this right now. But we're going to get into Christine's question in just a second. I want to remind you guys that if you haven't had a chance to join the email list that I send it out once a week, usually on Mondays or Tuesdays, so the early part of the week. I encourage you to do so. You can do so by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/list, and in that email that I send out, I'll always include a tip that you won't find in the podcast. So I'll explain what that tip is, and I'm going to do a better job of explaining the tip that I'm going to give in the email list at the end of each episode. So if you're already on the list, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't joined the list, you can do it by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/list. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Christine's question, which is a good two-part question. But let's go ahead and let Christine take over the show.
Hey Dan, I have a two-part question and it has to do with when you should start working on your casting video. I've applied both online and in person at a casting call, and this year I'm going to start with a video submission again so that I can get my face and story in their hands as soon as possible. That said, I was curious how far in advance you think someone should start making their video, and then with that, if shooting on several different locations would be more advantageous or too busy. I have a fun summer coming up full of cool trips and things like music festivals that really show off both some of the cooler things I get to do with my job and provide a great background. I was thinking about shooting at a few of the locations, but because I don't have a full script set or ready, I'm not sure how to go about it. Should I buckle down and get the whole thing ready to do all at once, or should I shoot a whole bunch of clips that I could hopefully put in the end? To give you some perspective, the program I'm applying for usually starts casting in September and goes through the fall. I've had callbacks and interviews both times I auditioned, though I didn't get to the finals, so I really want to make a push for this next year coming up. Thanks, much appreciated.
First off, Christine, thank you so much for submitting that voicemail question. And so Christine kind of has two big questions. The first one, how far in advance should she start to get ready to apply for the show? She mentioned that the show usually opens up in September. Right now we're in July. And so when should she start working on that? And much like how she perfectly timed her voicemail question, you kind of want to do that with your audition video. There's no perfect time, but the earlier the better. I don't know how long Christine was thinking about submitting a voicemail question, but whatever prompted her to do so at that moment was the right move. So if you know things are going to open up in September, you want to have things ready to go the second they open up. The sooner you get involved, the sooner you plan, the sooner you get things out there, the better chance, in my opinion, you're going to have, because that's going to show people, look, if you get on a casting person's radar early on, that's a good thing. You don't want to, what if there's two people that are identical or have the same type of traits and personalities, and the only differentiating factor is who got there first? Well, you want to be the first person there, so don't wait for someone else to, I don't want to say steal your spot, but in the chance that there's two, 5'9" dudes from the Midwest who are teachers, you want to be the first dude, because that could be enough. I don't want to be that, that over the top with it and say that is going to be enough, but maybe they have you in mind for a slot because you're early on, as opposed to you coming on the tail end being, yeah, we really like her, but we've kind of got our spots filled, or we're not looking for that type of person to fill this cast. So I like where you're at. I like your question and that part. It seems like you're already thinking about it, even though it's not September yet. It's a few months away. So I would say put your pedal to the metal, get things ready to go. So when they open up casting, you shouldn't say, okay, I'll submit it 7 days after they open up. Submit it the second you see that it's open, and early bird gets the worm. I never thought I'd say something like that on the podcast, but it's true in this case. The other thing I want to say, touch on is that, you've had some casting success. And anytime someone like Christine shares their story on the podcast and they're like, look, Christine's like, I've applied before. I've applied both online and in person, and I've had interviews and callbacks, but haven't made it to the finals. That's a great thing. It's great that you're getting callbacks. It's great that you're getting interviews. It means you're on the right track. So congratulations for that. I always tell people, don't downplay that. To get past that first hurdle is really tough. And I'm glad that you're not giving up and you're pressing on. So let's get into the other part of your question. And I love when people like Christine come on the show and give a little bit about their background so we can tailor this answer to Christine. So Christine sounds like she works for some sort of music festival or a music company, or I'm thinking like events and concert planning. And she goes, during this busy time in her work season, what should she use for her background? Should she shoot herself in a natural setting, get some fun clips to interject into her audition video, or should she kind of script things out and set up the shots? And my answer to that question is do both, because you don't know how the shots are going to turn out. You don't know how the script's going to turn out, but do both. So you're going to want to get, here's the best analogy I can give you, Christine, is that if you want to see a cheetah hunting and you put a cheetah in a room with a piece of meat, you can, or maybe you put a cheetah in a room with a rabbit and you can see, I don't know that they hunt rabbits. You put a cheetah in a room with a gazelle and you can see the cheetah hunt down the gazelle in a, say 500 square foot room. That's not very big at all. In a warehouse, you can see that. Okay, is that a cheetah hunting? Yes. Is it in their natural environment? No. Is it more impressive to see that cheetah out in the wild hunt down and track down a gazelle? Yes. So what the heck does that have to do with creating an audition video? If there's shots of you working in your environment that are natural, that's gonna solidify your story. It's gonna show what you're talking about that you do. Now, one thing you want to avoid, one word of caution when you're doing this, you want to make sure you're the star of those parts of your videos, meaning that there shouldn't be any other people in the video saying how great you are or in the shot with you. It should show you hustling and bustling around. Maybe you do stuff backstage. It should show you and only you in action. Now, depending on who you work with and things like that, that may be tough, but that's going to be helpful. And so just get some action shots that way. Now, when I say don't have other people in it, so if Dr. Dre's on stage, don't be like, hey, yeah, I'm behind stage setting up the concert for Dr. Dre. Okay, don't do that because it's really not that cool unless you happen to be Dr. Dre's assistant. Then you may want to talk about that because then that becomes a major part of your casting story. But for you, Christine, I'm guessing that you meet a lot of different artists and, you could flash pictures of you with a bunch of different artists in your audition video, but what is that? Don't do that. That's what you want to avoid. So in terms of what you want to get you in action. Some still shots would work too. But in terms of a script, it would be cool. I'm just like throwing things out. If you and I were on a call, it'd be like, hey, if there's a crazy crowd behind you and you have something to do with that crowd, set up a little intro of what the heck's going on behind you. And I'm sure some spontaneous things are going to happen, like you get a beer can chucked at you. I hope not, but you know what I mean? Like if you're working concerts, crazy things happen all the time. So you want to capture as much of that as possible. Use your iPhone, have a friend follow you around with an iPhone. Don't play to the camera for a little bit. Then go through like an intro. And if you see people going crazy behind you, that's where you want to shoot your intro. So really be open about it and get both types and set yourself in a position to capture some great footage. So when you insert it in between the introduction of your video and when you're explaining your background and your story and your job, there's nothing better than you saying, hey, I'm a concert coordinator. Cool. Well, if you follow that right up with some shots of you doing that and some you in action, it just it takes any questions out of it. It makes it easier for people to understand what you're all about. So, Christine, I hope that really helps and make sure I hit all my points. I did. I hope that helps you answer your question. It helps you in terms of the background. It helps you get started in planning this right now so that when September rolls around and they open the floodgates that you're ready to go. As a small thank you, Christine, we're going to send you a free digital copy of my story, How a Normal Guy Got Cast on Reality TV. And thank you so much for taking the time to go to the website and submit the question when you did, at the time you did, by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/ask. Christine, I hope this helps, and thank you so much for asking the question because people like Christine that submit great questions like this are the people that run this show and make the show possible. So thank you so much, Christine. All right, so that being said, that ends up another episode. Man, I'm struggling through this episode. That's before 4th of July, even though I said, hope you had a great 4th of July. The fourth wall has been broken. But anyways, I want to remind you guys, if you guys have not joined the email list, you can do so by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/list, because in that email I'm going to send out, there's going to be a tip regarding this specific question about backgrounds in your job. And the tip I'm going to give has to do with, what if you don't have a cool job like Christine? What if you're not a concert coordinator or work with live events? What do you do then? That's what the tip is going to be tailored to. So you can find out about that tip by joining the email list at howtogetonrealitytv.net/list. And that wraps up this episode. I will see you guys next Monday. Glad everyone had a safe and happy holiday weekend in the future. And I'll see you guys next week. Later.